Oh, good. All right. Obviously, went out in the elements today. Was a little bit of rain on the front end, and finished up in the stadium with a good practice. I thought on Saturday it looks like we might have a little bit of wind, but they're temperature-wise should be about where we're at. I thought our guys practiced the work week pretty good. Did some things similar to last week that we backed off. This is week 8 of 8 straight games in a row, so we want to make sure we're fresh for Saturday. From an injury standpoint, Geski's been with us all week. Kane Fagan, obviously no problem. The two big ones, I'm sure, Reggie and Keith, still haven't gotten clearance from a football standpoint, so don't know if they'll get cleared before Saturday, but it's next man up. Our guys have really done a nice job with that. Zach Toby, who we lost during the course of the game, didn't get back in. He practiced yesterday and today, so he's been full go. So really, from an injury standpoint, since our opener to where we are today, probably be as good as we have, minus obviously two really good guys with Reggie and Keith. Zai has been great all week, as well as Des Schuster got officially cleared. So he'll be, I don't know if we'll get him in the game plan yet, but should be with us on after the bye week.
Potentially not having Reggie and Keith, I mean, you've already got a game like that on your belt. You have a better sense of maybe what the next guy up can do just because you've seen it live?
Well, I think anytime you have a whole week to know when someone may or may not going to be there, but we're still holding on hope with those two. But to have the game plan, but we've stressed since day one with these guys, right? It's next man up. Take advantage of the opportunity you've been given. I thought T. Strain was a great example on Saturday. Probably played his best game and was off the bench for Zach Toby. So everybody's kind of doing their part, coaches and players.
Does just the experience of Keith and Reggie being their older guys, does that help with not need, if they're cleared late rather than...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would say anytime you have a guy that's multiple game starter, their window to return, I think, is a little bit more accelerated if they get clearance. And case in point, Geski last week got in there. I didn't have any problems with him getting in there, even though, he really literally just got cleared right before the game.
I think you touched on this on Monday, but the backup quarterback for Wisconsin is expect the unexpected in
Yeah.
that situation.
Yeah, although obviously he was at Mississippi State, so we kind of know the system that he came from, right? We'll watch high school film on him when they signed him back in the spring. So have a little bit of an understanding. He did play, the entire second half, right? So he's a guy that put a lot of film out there. But just much like we just talked about a minute ago, I think as coaches, they've had the whole week preparing him as a starter. I also think that probably we could possibly see one of those other quarterbacks in a little bit different scenario, right? So kind of preparing for everything, and bottom line, it gets down to what happens on game day.
Coach, you got a bunch of guys on the team currently from local area high schools.
Uh-huh.
Is that always going to be the case for you if the talent matches what you want?
I think anybody in the state of Illinois, from the north to the south, the east and west, and everywhere in between, if we feel they can play Big Ten championship football, we got to get them.
Right.
It's something we've kind of said all the way through. When I got here, I knew I'd done statistically. When I was at other places, at Wisconsin, when I was an assistant at several places, how many players from the state of Illinois. I always kind of just take that look on. Even way before I became a head coach, I'd find out how many guys signed Division I scholarships in every state, right? And then how you allocate your time. I became a recruiting coordinator when I helped a little bit at Iowa, but especially at Kansas State. And then when I went to Wisconsin, I was heavily involved in recruiting because I knew I was going to be the head coach. So had always looked at the state of Illinois, the pure numbers that sign, right? And knew that, obviously you can't sign them all, but the ones that you fit or believe fit your program, you want to be able to take a swing at those guys. And now more so than ever, I think that's happening. And then it's kind of ironic over the last couple of weeks here, we're hearing from players that we recruited in my first couple of years that didn't go other places that will reach out to us, indirectly. It's just an evolving time, right? Like literally with our committed guys, right? We've had a guy falter, but he's also talking to us every day, right? So there's so many things that go into it now with NIL to transfer portal, how that may affect the tape. So you might have a high school kid that's set to go somewhere, and then they sign 2 portal guys, and now he's like, well, wait a minute, why do I want to go there? Or a high school kid that we didn't win, right? He went to another place, and now they brought in a portal guy on top of him, and he's buried. So it's really an interesting time. This next bye week, this week in front of us, I'll literally be on the road Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, come back Tuesday afternoon, be in the building, Smith Center, Wednesday and Thursday, and then I'll leave Thursday afternoon, and I'll be at a high school practice, a junior college practice, or a college practice every day of the week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
So there's guys from like Danville and Gibson City. That's a little different for them because they kind of grew up in the shadow of this place. They know the place so well.
Well, I just bet on those guys. I think anywhere I've been, when I was at Iowa, it was Iowa kids. When I was at Kansas, it was Kansas kids. And when I was at Wisconsin, I think when a kid grows up, the difference that I thought coming in that I used literally in recruiting, when I was at Wisconsin, we were recruiting kids that their entire lifetime Wisconsin had been good, right? They didn't know Wisconsin as anything but it. When Coach Alvarez came in there, they had been nothing but bad, right? And I thought that was the transition when I became the head coach. Those kids had grown up their entire lifetime with Wisconsin being good. When I took the job here at Illinois, we had to battle the last 20 years of not being great, right? And promising to foreshadow of the future of what they could be, and I think that's been a huge selling point.
Obviously, it's a different scheme, but Jim Leonard, pretty
Yeah.
familiar with the personnel there.
Yeah.
What's been his role, if anything's different this week, and what value?
Well, yeah, I mean, Captain Obvious to not say that we haven't used him in certain ways different this week, just because he does have an understanding, right? But I think I respect Jimmy too much, and like haven't asked anything other than, you know, he's done this every week. He implements and gives us information on all three phases of the game ahead of, because he's 2 weeks in advance. He's usually a week or two ahead of us. You know, like right now, he's really in Minnesota, you know, at this back end of the week. But there are a lot of guys that are new to that roster, right? They really hit the portal world. So offensively, defensively, there are some guys he knows, but I think the kids there probably respect him and he respects them. So I think it's a difficult week, and he's never been here for a game, and I haven't even asked, right? Like I'm trying to treat this for him as a game week just as much as anybody else.
Coach, has there been an emphasis this week on shoring up the pass pro, and is that kind of the next step for the offense, you think?
I think what we're trying to do offensively is be successful on early downs, put us successful in third down. Pass pro is worked on every week. I don't think there's anything more or less. But I think what we're trying to do is game plan what we're going to do against Wisconsin and practice that as best we can.
Now that you've had a little more than half a season with Jim in that role, has it been what you thought it would be when you kind of talked about him coming in for?
Yeah, Jim. You know, obviously we've gone through this before, but like he made a huge impression on me when we got together as a coordinator and as a guy that not just was a great player in our defense, he was a great leader. And what I saw in him was his ability to see the game very well as a player. Like that's just not very common, and that doesn't surprise me now being around him as a head coach. And also my coaches and my staff would tell you, like I think they've been. You know, the thing that's jumped out to him is how well he sees things, but he also simplistically can say what he sees and put it in terms with what our players understand. And coach is just a really good football coach.
You have a couple guys who passed the 4-game threshold,
Yeah.
freshmen, and you have some guys who are really on the cusp. What's your philosophy or your approach and balance?
Anybody that can help us play and help us win a game, we should play them. I just think I've been in this in my 30 years, but really 15 years as a head coach. There's so many times where I've had a kid, I'm like, let's hold him. And then a year or two later, he gets injured, and you're like, man, I wish he would have had that red shirt, right? So I think anybody now with the NCAA rule, too, that postseason doesn't count, right? So let's just play him. If we got down to the last 1 or 2 games in the season and there's a guy that's at 4, but really unequivocally right now, we played every kid that we think could help us win a game, offense, defense, or special teams. And to be quite honest, because of our depth and the scenarios that we had, those guys are getting valuable reps. Mac Rusevich, is a guy like maybe hasn't played a lot of defensive football, but has been a huge factor for us in special teams. Sabor, a little bit of that. Different guys that popped up offensively, defensively. Kanari Wilcher, like literally a step away last week from maybe having a big kickoff return it was a big kickoff return to score, right? But he didn't get in the end zone. But we're going to keep playing guys. There's really no hesitation. We haven't had a magic 4 number. My first year we did, and then last year that kind of loosened, and this year it's because of the rule now that postseason doesn't matter. It's just all wheels off.
Thanks, guys.